I want to talk about Emma, but I also want to discuss whether college is a scam because I have been seeing a lot of people lately talk about how going to college was the biggest scam that they ever fell for. And I have some thoughts about that. So, approximately 2 or 3 months ago, people online were really upset with Emma Chamberlain's Anything Goes podcast. If you don't know who Emma Chamberlain is, she is essentially a YouTube star, a multimillionaire, and she runs a coffee business. She took YouTube by the storm, I think in 2017, when she would make these really highly edited vlogs that included sound effects and facial effects. They were just funny. So people were mad at Emma Chamberlain's podcast because they think that the philosophical topics that she talks about are not meant to be discussed alone by yourself.
I genuinely don't say this to be rude, but Emma Chamberlain's podcast genuinely is just a girl that needs to go to college. I'm not saying that in the way that means, oh, she's dumb, she needs to go to college. She's just clearly a girl that needs to riff ideas with people. And sometimes they need a little feedback, right? Like, I think sometimes she gets a little in her echo chamber. I also think she could benefit a lot from being guided in her studies, literary, philosophical.
But honestly, I get the criticism of wanting someone that maybe you used to watch or that you used to look up to improve their work or cater to you. But I just feel like everything is not for everyone. The people who are critiquing her the most are people who are in her age group who have a different life experience from Emma. These people graduated high school, they started working, or they went to college. Because Emma is a millionaire, she has a very different life experience. She doesn't have to worry about money, whereas other people do have to worry about money, and they do have responsibilities that they have to take care of. So they're living different lives. Maybe the way Emma articulates herself in her podcast will not be relatable to these people. And maybe Emma herself is trying to cater to a different audience, maybe even a younger audience, who knows?
I keep seeing these takes about Emma Chamberlain and her podcast and about how it's not as profound as maybe people thought, and she's just reveling in her little echo chamber. And I'm like, first of all, what did you expect? Second of all, I think that some of these takes are a little bit half-baked, being like, oh yeah, the only way that you can become like a well-rounded and knowledgeable human being is if you go to higher education, and I'm in higher education and now I'm having this thought that like was unlocked to me. I think that if you don't have that access to higher education, or if you're not able to pursue higher education, the best thing that you can do is challenge your beliefs, engage in conversation with people that have different experiences than you, and just read.
Does anyone think Emma Chamberlain's podcast is like kind of not that deep? Yeah, fork found in kitchen. Like, duh. Were you guys watching Emma Chamberlain for her emotional and intellectual depth? No. You watch her because it's fun to, see her run around and get a latte. Like, what were you expecting from her podcast? And I love you, Emma. Girl, I love you. What were y'all expecting from her podcast? Like, come on. I just can't believe we're having this discourse in 2023 when, first of all, she's had the podcast for 5 years. And
I did listen to an episode of that podcast a few months ago, and I enjoyed that episode where she had the therapist come over and they were talking about relationships and, what makes a healthy relationship. I think that was a really, really good episode. If she wants to keep talking about these philosophical life questions, I do think that she could benefit from having experts in those fields come over and talk about them with her, just like as a balance, I guess, for the people who think that the podcast is not like deep enough. I don't know. That's what I think. And we can disagree. We can agree to disagree or disagree to agree. But yeah, good luck to Emma and her podcast. I wish her well. So moving along, I do want to talk about whether college is a scam, especially as someone who has a first-hand account of going to college. So in recent decades, we've been told that going to college will help people advance their socioeconomic status and even have job security. A lot of people nowadays are crippled with college debt. And then on top of that, you have your car payment, you have to pay for housing and all of these things. Rent is rising, car payments are rising, car insurance is rising, but the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, is still $7.25. Even if you're able to go to college, you're not guaranteed a job that is going to pay you a livable wage. Today, you cannot survive in this economy making $7.25 an hour. So this is something that kept me up at night, the night that I found out about it. Do you know that the United States has spent $8 trillion on war since 2001? This was a report that was done by Brown University. I did some math because I wanted to conceptualize how much $8 trillion is. So $8 trillion, when broken down, is $43 billion per hour. When this $43 billion is broken down even further, you soon come to realize that the United States has spent $724,000 per minute on war. If it's broken down even further, the United States has spent $12,071 per second. Do you remember when I said the federal minimum wage is $7.25? Yet, this country has spent $12,000 per second, or $724,000 per minute, or $43 billion per hour on war in the last 21 years. Personally, I believe that college is not for everyone. It is mentally taxing, it is physically taxing. Literally, junior year was my worst year ever. It was so bad I had to get a therapist because it was terrible. It was a terrible year. With all of that said, I still don't think college is a scam. I think the cost of going to college is the biggest scam ever. When you think about it, a lot of college institutions are literally just corporations. There is no reason why a college is charging $60,000 in tuition per semester. It just doesn't make sense. For people who feel like this is their only way out, this is their only way out of poverty, they end up having to take so much in loans. And especially if you're an international student, you don't get funding from the government. Like, you have to figure out how you're going to pay for that. You have to take out loans. You have to do a lot just to be able to afford to go to college. Along with international students, the people I feel terrible for are people who go to college and then realize that it's not for them. And especially the people who go to private schools and they take out so much money in loans and then leave. And so now they have to figure out how to pay that money back when maybe they weren't even sure if they wanted to go in the first place. It's a sad situation. Society itself shoves it down our throats that we need to go to college, we need to go to college. There's some people who never even wanted to go, are like, maybe I should just go to appease everyone. So how exactly did colleges become so expensive and so unaffordable for everyone? I actually looked this up. I did some research and I found out that before the 1960s, colleges were tuition free. Jennifer Nations wrote this research paper that examines why we have such higher tuition rates. And in that paper, she goes on to say that people were enrolling in college at higher rates after World War I because of the GI Bill, which essentially made college free for veterans. But because of the high enrollment, the cost became a huge burden to taxpayers, and the economic growth of the country had declined by that time, so politicians were looking for ways to cut costs. In the late 1960s, Ronald Regan introduced the idea of making colleges for-profit institutions when he became the governor of California. And I actually found a statement from January 17th, 1967 that he wrote about the issue of college tuition. He starts off by saying that California is facing a financial problem and that they have to cut the budget because property owners specifically are paying so much in taxes. So he proposed the idea of introducing a college tuition which, quote, must be accompanied by adequate loans to be paid back after graduation, and that scholarships should be available to provide that no deserving students be denied education due to lack of funds. End quote. So it seems like Reagan's plan for higher education spread throughout the country. In 2023, there are 43.6 million Americans that collectively owe $1.7 trillion in student debt. Do you know how crazy that is? So I found this other source that says that a college graduate will spend an average of 10 years paying back their student loans. 10 years. It's gotten to the point that people are literally not paying back their loans because they can't afford to pay back their loans. There was an article that came out last year that said that 9 million people had defaulted on their loans. And a lot of people online were saying like, yeah, I defaulted because I can't pay it. I have to choose between gas and food or paying the loans back. And of course I'm going to choose to feed myself, which like who wouldn't? Like, it's getting crazy. It's getting scary. And now everyone is busy pursuing tech and engineering when as a society we desperately need social workers, we need teachers, we need sociologists. But a lot of people are opting out of pursuing those fields even if they're passionate about them because they're not getting paid a livable wage. Now I want to give advice to people who are thinking about college at any age. You could be any age because you could go back to school at any different time in your life. My take on going to college is that you should absolutely crunch the numbers. For people who have dream schools but they did not get enough money from the school, I would suggest just start applying for as many scholarships as you can and hope that you win, because otherwise you could go to your dream school and end up owing so much money when you graduate, and owing so much money after you graduate on student loans is not fun. Especially when you're 18, you're thinking like, oh, that's like so far away, that's like 4 years or 5 years from now, it doesn't really matter. And then when the time comes around, you start panicking. You're like, oh my gosh, now I need to find a job, now I need to do this and this and this so I can be able to pay those loans back, and you're stressing. Crunch the numbers, look at the money, figure out if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, my best advice would just be to choose the college that you can afford. If you're someone who is not sure if you want to go to college but you still want to have a college experience, go to a community college, because community colleges are literally so good. I took a calculus 3 class at a community college and it was so nice. Even if you have to pay out of pocket, it's not as much as going to a 4-year college. And something else that a lot of people don't know is some professors who teach at 4-year colleges also teach at community colleges. So you're getting the same education for half the price. Anyways, if you're going to college soon, good luck. Take care of yourself. Sometimes your mental health comes first, like if you're really going through it and like school is super hard, take care of yourself. Eat well, drink water, exercise, find different hobbies, make friends. Just make it the best that you can, because it truly can be the best 4 years of your life. It wasn't the best 4 years of my life, but it wasn't. I learned a lot. Like, I have a love-hate relationship with college, but I'm grateful that I went. That's what I think. Others may feel differently, opinions may vary, but I think for me, college was worth it. So yeah, anyways, that was it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.